Welcome to Camera Ready and Abel, the podcast that explores the intersection of media change and personal growth. I'm your host, Barbara Barna Abel, and my calling is to help you tap into your superpowers to thrive on camera and in life and make an impact on the world. This is my 100th episode, and it is brought to you by the phrase tapping into your talent, which is at the heart of Camera Ready and Abel. Talent, very simply, is natural aptitude, ability, or skill. Everyone has innate talent, but not everyone knows it. Here to discuss is my dear friend and the reason I even have a podcast, Vinnie Potestivo. Vinnie is an Emmy Award-winning media advisor and founder of Vinnie Potestivo Entertainment, who helps people and their businesses get seen and heard. Vinnie is also the host of the I Have a podcast, which is like number one on every platform. So please go check that out. It inspires me every week. Welcome back, Vinnie.
Hey.
Thank you.
Basking in your talent. It's awesome to be back. Thank you. 100 episodes, by the way. Congratulations. That's ridiculous. The evolution of talent has brought us to here. This is proof. Ooh, it's hot in here. Congratulations from like every part of my body and goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps and like what a major accomplishment that is. And I'm going to take a moment to just make sure people know that 5-star review is a capability, a possibility, and it's a reality. When you go and you just started this podcast, go right back right now and leave a 5-star review for Barbara. Let her know how awesome it is. 100 episodes. That is not light. That is powerful. Congratulations.
Thank you, love. And just to remind anyone who's new to the Camera Ready and Abel universe, this all started with a conversation in September 2020 with Vinnie. And an hour into that conversation, you were like, you need a podcast. You're going to call it Camera Ready and Abel. And 5 or 6 months later, it launched. Right. And we put the work in and here we are. So, a million thank yous to you. So I want to begin by talking about your entire career is built on helping people tap into their talent. So you personally have an innate talent for helping people tap into their talent.
Well, I turned a coping mechanism into a superpower. Yes, this is. I think I had to find
let's talk about that. What does that mean as a coping mechanism? Because that's a powerful thing. But what did you mean by that?
Like where we start from. I didn't necessarily feel like I was guided into any one industry or that I was champion, to be honest, as a child, that I was championed into any specific role set or business model based on my successes. I felt a lot like it was up to me to figure it out. And I figured out, and in figuring it out for me, some of my talents became how to network with people because I had a desperate need to connect with people. How to network quickly with people because I had a limited amount of time with people as a child back in the day before internet, to make a real connection, a real friendship with people, to trust, to understand, that some people say things that they don't mean and some people do things that they don't say, and that has no impact. It has impact on me, but it's none of my doing. And that really helped me figure out, how to truly, I don't know, make myself feel unique. I don't know if I ever once tried to be validated. I just wanted to be unique. I almost didn't want to be compared to anybody. So I couldn't be validated. So I couldn't, I removed the opportunity to connect me or compare me to somebody. I tried to work and do things so differently that you couldn't say I was better or worse than anybody. And that journey, that struggle, that very solo, and I'm happy how it came out. There are lots of other ways to get here. So I'm not going to say I don't wish this on anybody because I've had a blessed life because of it. But it gave me real super skills to be able to help people, help myself in the moment, figure out what our talent is, what our possibilities are, our capabilities are, the opportunities we can be creating.
This is the essence, though, of the conversation and why you and I were so excited to choose it for this episode is because you didn't grow up knowing I have this special talent for this. And so it speaks to the idea that we all have these innate talents and we're often not aware of them because it wasn't something that was recognized, valued, pronounced. It wasn't in front of it. It wasn't like you were a super fast runner or a great swimmer. It wasn't like you were a math champ or something that seemed tangible.
Yeah, I was good online, meeting people and connecting with new groups of people. Like who had known, there wasn't even words for some of those actions. I didn't let that stop me though. I didn't let that, I
Mm.
didn't let the not understanding how to use my talent, I didn't let that stop me from honestly figuring out what I appreciated doing, what I thought I was good at, what I thought I was bad at, what I received from other people and their feedback.
So you tapped into your talent,
Hmm.
which still blows me away because you were really, really an early adopter in what we would now call sort of digital technology and its uses and its applications into marketing. So that's, episode number 4 when you come back.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
but in the meantime, now I want to segue into the idea. So you tapped into your talent. You find yourself at MTV Networks,
Hmm.
part of the glory days, and your job then is about identifying talent and helping that talent tap into their talent. So what are you doing when you're doing that? What is
So
that?
actually, my boss's job is exactly what you said. Like when I get to MTV in the late '90s, that's my boss's job. My job was to build the system for it. That looked like databases and SOPs, and I
I'm
really had
sorry, what's an SOP?
a standard operating procedure.
Thank you.
Us corporate creatives who've got to get lots of yeses to make things happen. And I realized the importance of what lives on a paper and how that gets passed from executive to the executive to executive, and all the things that need to be aligned, in that piece. Helping the people at MTV discover, for me, looked like organizing the conversation, putting boundaries on castings, putting time limits on projects, geo-targeting communities, and figuring down to the campus. Even if there was a specific school with a specialty that I really wanted to focus on, a lot of it was the systems that I would bring into place to be able to let the people who were great at discovering talent and finding talent, do their job. And I observed, I learned that part at MTV. When I got to MTV, I'm an organizer. I can edit by record, putting 2 VCRs together. My databases are like, since the mid 90s, I've always been a database guy, having a talent database. Now I have a podcaster database. Growing a community with organized information for me has been an important part of helping people tap into their talent, because it's their strengths and their interests that has to stand the test of time, and development. As we know in TV development, really the TV development is a challenge against time. Is it going to survive the development duration? Will it be able to hit air? Will it be able to connect with an audience in time? And that's why I think speed, the immediacy of connection and understanding what people's talents are and their capabilities. Like, we're lucky that in the beginning part of our career, we were in casting and we really got to see in real life what we thought people's capabilities are. The coolest part now, 25 years later, we can look back and see if we were right or wrong about that.
Oh, I love
And I'll
that.
tell you what I
But
learned. Capabilities, a lot of it has to do with seed planting. By the way, a lot can be said about an idea that's brought into the room that suddenly creates a new opportunity and possibility. So, and I saw that happen too.
okay,
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite metaphors because sometimes it takes longer for certain seeds to germinate than others.
Mm-hmm.
And so
It's
this
true.
idea of immediacy, and sometimes it takes 5 or 10 years for something, to take root and grow. So I want to go back just to clarify so that we weren't skipping over. What happens is you identify whether it sounds like you were articulating this, that you have this superpower, really amazing skill set around organization that you understand that most people do not have. So you were able to articulate to people that you wanted to network with, this is the value that I bring, and this is how I can help you. That's awesome. So I just want that to be really clear with people, because that's this big part of that I really believe in, helping people tap into their superpowers. Is the whole idea of let's identify it, because once you have it, now you can talk about it and you're going to connect that to value. What do other people need? And as Vinnie, you love to remind me, what else are people willing to pay for? Which is a key part of this, right? And so at MTV Networks, they were willing to pay for your services. Like, yay,
Yeah.
come in, you have a tremendous value. We're going to give you a paycheck and benefits and all these nifty things. Okay, so now a bigger part of this conversation, I think, for a lot of people listening then is and not to gloss over into the tapping into part, but what happens? What's the benefit of tapping
Yeah.
into our talent?
Oh, great.
What happens
That's
once we've done
brilliant
that?
question. Yeah. How do we use it? How do we leverage it? How do we get paid for it? All of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, with as a creative or as a professional who uses a creative medium like Instagram or TikTok or YouTube to get a message out, to communicate, being crystal clear in your point of view is always a vantage point. It's something that I learned from day one by working with the people that I worked with at MTV, and still to this day, the more clarity you have your point of view, the more that your audience understands what intersection you stand in. You said earlier, I can help pinpoint what people's strengths are, and then I connect the dots. And I think that this is exactly how I've been able to help people leverage their talents. One, first and foremost, it helps you stand out. Understanding what your talents are, understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are, and weaknesses can also be your strengths. By the way, I want to point out, Jessica Simpson was famously known for not being good in the kitchen and not understanding the ingredients of tuna, chicken, chicken tuna of the sea. Here you have this person who truly, by the way, and that whole show, by the way, if you look at it, like the conceit behind that show, maybe in the early 2000s, through a pro-social lens, might be media sure does have an opinion about what Jessica Simpson's life is supposed to be, and they sure do have an opinion about what a young female's life is supposed to be, especially after she gets married. So what if we show them what we are? Like that's what I was lucky to be at MTV, to give her time to get to show the world the true strength.
Can you tell what the show was? Because there might be people listening, right?
Sure, yeah, right. A long time. Yeah, we worked on the show Newlyweds with Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson back in the day, and it was sort of this trio of unscripted programming that helped put MTV on the map between the Osbournes, Punk'd, and Newlyweds. Getting to help those people, change their lives through MTV was awesome, because they needed the audience to see it for change, to happen. And it's a great example of someone leaning into her strength, where her strength might have been her weakness. Again, food, I think that chicken tuna of the sea might have been, to be honest, the moment that most connected to the most amount of people watching that show, because we've either had that doubt, or we know someone who did, or we grew up at a point.
Wait, so what do you explain? I just want to get clear. Okay, one, I got to call you out on this, because being someone who's a little bit older, and I have many people listening to this who are like, MTV was already on the map, Vinnie.
I mean, it was on.
I'm teasing. It's been on the map for 20 years. I just meant because what happens is every generation that comes along, like what happens is they kept evolving and changing. And what you're talking about is that it changed the role of unscripted TV. And so I'm just tweaking you and teasing you in a way. But for anybody who's older than you, we're like, I beg your pardon.
How very dare you? Yeah. I mean, I'm the guy that they're blaming me for getting rid of videos on MTV. That's what they're thinking.
Yeah. Okay, exactly. We can really go there. But what are you trying to say? Like, because we're spending a lot of time on God bless Jessica Simpson and her billion-dollar empire. But what I'm getting at is, why was Chicken of the Sea? How did being a ditz in the kitchen, how was that helpful to her brand?
Because she was aware of it. It was and the talent of awareness, whether it is a strength or a weakness, is something that you will always be able to leverage. It's understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are, on identifying, knowing what you enjoy and don't enjoy in the process thereof, can really help you.
Wait, that's beautiful to say. And I was actually, believe it or not, just having this conversation with a younger person about Dolly Parton, because it's the same idea. In some ways, it's about, you're always in on the joke. The things that you are actually controlling the narrative around the things that some people like to make fun of you for. So it's like Jessica was always way smarter than anyone was giving her credit for.
And I think, there you go. Well, yeah, if you look at the bank account, for sure. I mean, if you're going to equate dollars to success, that's a very easy argument. But I completely agree with you as well. I think she won big in life by owning who she was. And again,
I'm going to say the same thing for Snooki, if we're going to go to the same sort of era.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Right? Super controversial, polarizing. But we've talked about this before. The reason, she's continued to work and has had book deals and shows long after the rest of that cast kind of expired, is because I think she always understood her value. And also, I think that she's got an incredible work ethic and shows up and delivers.
Yeah. Also, I'll throw out Martha Stewart into the mix.
Ooh.
I think what she's been doing recently, how she acknowledges her future and her past, I thought she's really listening to the audience that is providing her feedback, and she's really able to cut through. There's noise when you listen, when you open yourself up to ridicule and opinions from the public. There's noise that it's out there. It's in the repeat comments, and some of it is positioning, but I think she really is tapped into. Jennifer Coolidge might be another person, right?
Beautiful
her
example.
Strengths are her weaknesses.
I love that.
Oh yeah, right? This
is good. This might be a whole nother episode. Okay, but keep
So,
going.
so understanding your talent, first off, understanding your talent helps you ultimately win awards, and awards are ways that you can prove that you have talent. So talent and awards for me go hand in hand. When you understand your talent and you can apply your talent, whether you're a casting director, a host, a dentist, a florist, an accountant, when you can apply your talent, there are awards out there for them. There are best business, there are best accounting firms, there are best ad agencies of New York City. I can go on and on about the non-creative awards, let
But
alone.
awards help you break through the clutter. Awards are important, not in their own sake, but even if we go
Right.
back to Emmys, well, certainly Oscars and even Golden Globes, is it actually gives life to a creative project. It can extend the life. It
Yeah.
can bring a huge amount of awareness to something that didn't have awareness before. So that is a really important part of the award story.
Yeah, to your point, by the way, it's not the size of the award that matters; it's how you use it. But it's really really true. And also, by the way, you say this is an older audience. I'm leaning into a more mature audience. I'm leaning into that. Look, I've been lucky to be in TV for about 25 years now. Just a year and a half ago, I for the first time ever won my first Emmy. I realized that the Emmy is an award in our industry that other industries acknowledge, and I made it a goal. You're literally the first. I remember our phone call, by the way. I started talking to the audience. Barbara, I remember calling you up saying, I'm looking at like what's missing, the perception of where I want to be, and that Emmy is just something that. And I'm happy to even have it in my title now because it says I come from TV and I was successful because people understand that that's what that statue does, but it's what I do with it that matters most. By the way, what happens next is the most important part of my little lady Emmy and our journey together. Also, my talent has led me to an award that has been a really cool networking opportunity. I now am an Emmy award winning because of identifying my talent with other producers who have the same award for the same project, and they are the former CEO of Priceline and a former Shark of Shark Tank. And my talent led me to an award that now connects me to people in an evergreen way. Like that's never going away, that piece of it. Credits. I can say the same thing about credits too, by the way. Credits, when you understand your talent, credits on IMDb or job titles for if it's non-creative job titles, if you are creative and you understand IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, credits are social proof of our talents. It is our expertise on display. And right now, being a podcaster, they now allow podcasters the same way TV shows and films to be on IMDb. This means that dentists, doctors, lawyers who have podcasts now have the ability to share credit and give credit and get credit on a platform that I think is really important for the creator economy, because a lot of network executives and media executives understand how to search IMDb for people. But for non-creatives who are now jumping into this creator economy, IMDb allows us to be seen in a way because of these credits as podcasters, as executive producers, as ourself. And these are ways, again, that lead to more visibility,
an
and that leads to more discoverability
nugget. And then just to add on to that, because you're the one who taught me about this, is it also just in visibility in general, because of IMDb is owned by Amazon, company you may have heard of. And so because of how big they are, just your general SEO and your discoverability increases exponentially if you're tapping into these sorts of resources, which is a best kept secret that you were so generous about sharing, which does get into another thing about the value or the, when you tap into your talent, as you pointed out, an obvious thing for almost all of us is, oh, yay, because I can monetize it or make money, or it's my career. And that's all really important. But you speak so well to the notion of when the importance of tapping into your talent, because it leads to your discoverability. Which is growth, which is both your business growth, but also your impact. Yeah. Which are, in my book, are equally important.
Yeah. Identifying talent for me is just part of talent development. That's part of character development. Displaying my talent, showcasing my talent, demonstrating my talent, that changes the story. Understanding my talent again changes me. Using my talent changes the story. And
We'll talk more
you know,
about that. Get specific.
I know there's a lot of focus on how, people say, stories are the most important thing, and stories are all that matter. I have to be very honest with you. I got to give a lot to the characters. The story is important, but I could tell you David and Goliath, and you can tell me a version of that story that I haven't heard yet. There's so many times we used Thelma and Louise. There are so many characters that
Archetypes.
transcend their stories. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's as we seek to find out our own individuality, what makes us not only unique and fascinating, but like-minded and similar too, right? Because if we can find the things that make us unique, then we must be able to understand the things that make us, that we have in common, right? To me,
and to me, I always phrase it, it's the universality of something.
Yeah. And I actually, because I began in professional creative 25 years ago, I was trained to network up. I was trained to look at the directors and managers and VPs and SVPs. And part of my talent development a lot had to do with me wanting to be a producer, because producers got Emmy Awards, and casting directors, when I was in reality TV a long time ago, weren't getting, there was no category for us. So suddenly my professional endeavors now are leading me to want to be a producer so I can, have that Emmy Award. And I think what I want to say is when you change the story, when you have the ability to change the story, and talent, again, changes the story, you want to be careful that the story doesn't, this is a little heady, you want to be careful that the story doesn't take you to a place where your character shouldn't be. And stories often change faster than characters, meaning what's happening around us often changes quicker than we ourselves are even adapting to the newness. There's this idea of think fast, change slow. And this to me is systemic approach to talent development. Think fast, know where you stand, understand your point of view, know your intersection of your strengths and where that can take you. And then also enjoy the places where you are.
Oh, absolutely. So what I want to transition though is in talking about this is actually what your business now does, because you're actually helping people identify their talent. And the reason I'm saying this, and it's like, I know what my talent is. I'm a great accountant. I'm a really good architect or fashion designer, or whatever. I understand my talent. And you're saying, oh, no, you have other talents that you hadn't realized, that now we're going to get these things into alignment so that you can amplify, elevate, whatever, any of those sort of marketing terms we want to use. So how do you do that? Because that's your superpower. And what's the result of that?
Some of it is identifying the talent of you that I think is scalable, or a piece that you're willing to open up. A piece, it's almost identifying your talent. It's almost like a contact point with you, right? Like if we're in space and these two huddles are coming together, the piece where they touch together, that intersection, I might call that talent. The talent to me has always been intersection, because it's all about growth. What changed for me with this whole conversation about intersection is the amount of platforms that even Instagram, a single social media network, has 7 different surfaces within Instagram, meaning posts, reels, DMs. I can go on and on
Stories.
and on about the stories, all the different ways
IG
to stand
lives.
out,
Yeah.
And for me, it becomes understanding how I believe, based on my experiences and gut, how your audience could best experience you based on some of the technology that's out, by the way. Podcasts are great, first and foremost, because you only need a temporary internet connection. So I know at a point in time where a lot of us have internet connections, it's not stable. Podcasts are great for, by the way, just a few years ago, New Yorkers, we didn't even have like internet down in the subway. So like podcasters it's such a New York mentality for me. Like, you need a podcast. You're going to go in the subway. You can't listen to the radio down there. You hear my accent.
Can we talk about this for a sec? Because you're saying something so important that I'm just going to translate into my own language and story. Was one, the notion of scalability. So I want to circle back and have you explain, what does that mean to like scale? So because you're having this conversation with me 2 years ago and you're like, what's scalable? The other thing too is to remind, it goes back to the seed planting, but creating opportunity and revisiting, is because the technology changed. Just the same way as like the internet became available in the subway and the technology changed. So suddenly doing a podcast became easy for me, where previously it had been hard, and hard to the point where there wasn't enough of a return on investment, because the amount of time I was going to put into it was taking too much time away from my actual core business. Then that changed. And suddenly this becomes this incredible platform where it's so personally enriching. It's connecting me with people. It's serving a core value of mine to provide access to information to people. Plus it's also its own, marketing tool, and my skills get better. And so I'm bringing that up because it's a reminder that sometimes it's important to go revisit. I believe this to be true. Well, it was true 3 years ago. Is it still true now?
Yeah. I love hearing you describe it, because I remember thinking, like, you literally already have a podcast. You're already talking to fascinating people every single week, week after week. It wasn't even something that we thought of as a networking. Some people love the networking opportunity and components to it. And there's a lot of driving factors to podcasting. But my understanding of where we were at in that moment was you had a message that needed to get out, and it needed to get out now. And we couldn't wait a single moment. That what we needed to start creating, we had all the right tools. You had already cast all the brilliant experts. You already had a solid group of people around you. And some of that's taking in, and this might lead to the second part of what I do, is taking inventory. For me, it's always about the who, not the how. It has never once been about the tool, because the tools change, the platforms change, the materials change, the stories change, but it's the carpenter that I care about in these stories. It's the character that I care about in these stories most. Those to me, at least from what I've seen, or how I see life, maybe is what the character stands the test of time. But it's the who, not the how. And tools don't learn new tricks, but people do. And
okay, you're blowing my mind.
We're an exploring media, so we want to be trying new things,
I'm suddenly going back to the very beginning of this conversation, because what you've just said to me is, when you tap into your talent and identify what that is, you are getting at the heart of who you are, which goes back to true authenticity, your value, and it has to be something that is sustainable, that it's identifiable, and it's grounded in something, because that who you are is not going to change. You can grow and evolve and develop and all those things that are really powerful. But because to your point, the stories will change, the platforms will change, but who you are as a person, your heart and your soul, is who you are.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're tapping into, is that character. And by the way, to your point, if I may, because I just want to say it was so great, is I've worked with a lot of people where we understood your characters, you're awesome, and realize your time might not be now. I meant like fashions come and go, things ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And it's just keep doing your thing and hone it and your skills and get better, because your time will come. And I look at, so many ways, and we've talked about these examples, like the confluence of things that made, Carson Daly a star, because suddenly the world shifts and grunge is out and boy bands are in and TRL is happening. And suddenly Carson, he was Carson, he had all these great skills. He's suddenly in the right place at the right time with these great skills to go do his thing, and now he's still doing his thing, which brings me to the other Carson, who I love and adore, who was also fully evolved, doing his thing, and suddenly just the timing was right, where the world needed a show where amazing, queer men went out and did make betters on straight men. And Carson, Kressley is still out there making the world a better place.
Yeah,
and
he's had evolution of talent. Yeah, he's stayed relevant all throughout the years.
But Carson was Carson. He's exactly what we're talking about. What a strong, loving, generous, fun character. He hasn't changed.
Yeah. As you're saying this, it makes me want to also throw out like a warning. Your talent isn't necessarily the thing that gets you discovered. It's sharing your talent that leads to more visibility. And in that visibility, you have the opportunity to get discovered. So a lot of people who might work really, truly hard or believe that they've already tapped into their talent might be asking, well, I already have my talent. I already know what it is, but how come it's not connecting? How come I'm not? Where's the phone calls? It's in using that. So going back to Carson Daly, he had an innate talent. That talent led to lots of conversations. And when the timing was right, he put himself on a daily show where he shared his talent every single day for a decade. And he created an experience that people would share at school. We didn't have social media back then. He would share. He was sharing conversations with celebrities. He was sharing the top 10, videos of the day. He is being seen as a source of share. So we come back to the source when it is rich, when we are getting, by the way, when we're getting what we want and when we're getting what we want to share, because there's part of the ego that says like, hey, if I find something and I can give it to everyone, then everyone will think like I'm valuable. That will lead to value. This is my point. If visibility led to discoverability, then just increase more visibility and then everyone will get discovered. And here's the proof. What happens with increased visibility without increased shareability is there's a part of marginal return. There's a point where we no longer care about your existence because this project, this song, this podcast, this person does no longer serves the benefit of me and my group because they already have visibility. So like we all talk about Mariah Carey the day after Thanksgiving. Everyone is talking about the Queen of Christmas now, and she's done a great job. Talk about talent, innovation and reinvention, keeping something solid that she created once alive and going because she really honed in on what was the magical part. I believe she honed in on the magical part of that song and how many different families have that song now part of like their Christmas playlist is gigantic. But 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, unless you're in New York or you're a diehard Mariah fan, and no offense, but we kind of stopped talking about it. It's no longer exciting to talk about. Everybody already knows it. They've already seen it. They've already heard it. We might, in fact, if I bring it up, it might even like make you mad that I'm bringing it up, or you might not care. And then that devalues, so what ends up happening is I put up a defense mechanism that says, ugh, Mariah, ugh, that song again, like it doesn't serve me. There's a disdain for it. But I want to point this out because this is a cycle. It happens every year. Unfortunately, I've seen it happen with artists. I learned at MTV, some people love to love artists. Some people love to hate artists. It's a cycle and it's unfortunate, but knowing that cycle and knowing how that works allows you to play into that. And again, that's the clarity that comes with understanding your talent.
As we wrap up, I just want to then go back to the example you gave earlier, because now you're tapping into your talent by identifying, value and who you are and the character you are. And then we're combining that with adaptability, because that goes back to Martha Stewart, because I've been with Martha from the beginning.
Yeah.
Pre-TV, like it was just books, and she's a caterer in Connecticut, and we live in Connecticut at that point. And my point is, she's always been, her whole thing was founded on good things. It's a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. So she's still dishing out good things. 50 years later, or whatever it is. But the point is, she has adapted with the times and certainly taken her share of punches in big. But to your point, it's about adapting to the platforms, identifying what's the right platform to you, keeping up with your audience, changing with the time, any of that stuff. Now you've just given me a playbook, a roadmap.
That's how you leverage it. I love this, by the way. I love that Martha didn't throw away who she was to be a stronger version of herself. She pivoted into the audience. She didn't change, here's what's good. She changed, here's what's good for you, as opposed to you and now us. And that's, again, part of understanding how to leverage it, by the way. And look, tapping into your talent, understanding your talent, that's a process. We've talked a lot about how to leverage your talent, if you've already tapped into your talent. This is almost an accelerated conversation. People who we're assuming you've already figured out, what that superpower is. I have some quick tips if I can share real quick. If people aren't prepared to leverage, you asked earlier, what's talent development 101? Like, what is it? What does the work really look like? It's identifying your strengths and weaknesses and interests. It's understanding what you're good at, what you enjoy doing. To your point, it's the touch point that I want to be able to help you scale. And is that sustainable? I'm very cautious about helping people build something if I think it's going to burn them out. I've seen it happen. So identify your strengths and weaknesses. Part of identifying your talent, and some people might not like this, is setting specific goals. Some people feel limited by goals. They feel that, what if my talent exceeds it? Well, what if? Well, how about that? Wouldn't that, what if? So set specific goals. It's like bullseye. You have to know if you can hit the bullseye or if you can get on the board. You have to know, your expertise level. I read this awesome quote. It said that the difference between experts and novices will keep doing it until they get it right. experts will keep doing it until they can no longer get it wrong. And that comes from setting specific goals. It doesn't mean experts don't make mistakes, but we also know how to make sure those mistakes are, certifiable pieces of content that we can get out there. Practice and develop your skills. Athletes go to the gym. I hate to tell you, there's a reason why we say create content, and not everyone needs to create content every single day. That's not what that looks like. But practice and develop your skills, whatever those are. Seek out new opportunities. There are existing opportunities for your talent already. If I wanted to be a casting director, I could have called up casting companies. I didn't do that. I took out an ad on Backstage, and then people sent me their headshots at school. And then I started a database of people. Like I sought out my own opportunity without needing to rely on someone else to kickstart my casting career in the late 90s. I tipped on this one earlier, and I wish I would have learned this a little bit better than I did in the late 90s. Learn from others. Again, I'll say it, I'm 45. I learned to network up. If you're not networking laterally, horizontally, and 360, if you're not looking at the students who are in college, if you don't have students in college in your phone helping you understand how to work with the next wave of people, community, words, pains that they're going through, I would just have you maybe reapproach your networking strategy and be mindful that there is so much to learn, especially as podcasters, where it's a brand new industry. We're siphoning in experts from every single other economic industry, doctors and lawyers. We have so much expertise in podcasting right now that has nothing to do with podcasting yet. That's framing our industry. So seek new opportunities, learn from others, stay motivated and persistent. And then, like what you said, Barbara, and I'll leave it here, reflect and reassess. It is a cycle. I didn't have one shot in life to win an Emmy. I have an annual opportunity to win that Emmy, and so do you. And there are hundreds of awards that I've identified, that I've done the work because I saw this pain point with creators and new business owners. And I have a list of over 100 awards. I have a list of how to get your podcast on IMDb. I support people with those tactics on my website. And I'm not creating conversation and expecting you to fill in the gaps here. I've identified a lot of the gaps, and some of this is because this is what it takes to get people sustainably in television shows and media. And all these small pieces are the foundational pieces that I would have to do throughout the years to ensure the people we are bringing to TV, and you have some great names that you've dropped here, are franchise-worthy talent. Like, that's why we have talent on TV for 25 years plus. You know what I mean? It's the best part of the job now is seeing them grow and having them and their changes be part of, our alchemy and what we create, next. It's not an easy process. And like you said, it's an emotional process, and it's a physical process. And there are muscles connected to editing and performing and being on camera, or just getting up in front of a room and talking. And I want to leave you with this thought that I love most about podcasters and podcasting, is that there's not one single person who owns podcasting. And majority of the bazillions of podcasts we hear are owned by individual people like Barbara and myself. What is scary about talking to friends, colleagues, people you already know? We own this content. It's not like, oh, I recorded it, now I gave it to the network and the network's not going to let me. This is why I'm leaned in and focused on independently owned content. These moments like this, and I can show up and look, sometimes my energy gets a little high and my anxiety kicks in, and I'll triple on words, and I might say something that, I don't mean, but it comes out the wrong way. And that used to be a blockage for me. And I would literally, imagine this, I would not speak because I was afraid of messing up, let alone trusting the person that I'm speaking with. So Barbara, congratulations on your 100th episode. It is.
Thank you, love. Thank you.
And I'm in your shadow.
I adore
you,
light. As you know.
You're just pure sunshine. And this vocabulary, this lexicon of success that you've created with these words on this podcast. And again, I know I asked the audience earlier, 5-star review, Barbara Barna Abel on Camera Ready and Abel. This is the episode that should get you to Apple, Google, wherever you're, Spotify, wherever you're listening, and just leave that big 5-star review, because that's something that can help her change her perspective, her momentum, and y'all will be the alchemy of our success. And I really appreciate that.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. I can't wait to have you back for the, 200th. Thank you, love,
Yes,
so
great. Love
much.
that. Yes.
And I want to thank you, the audience, as always, for listening to Camera Ready and Abel. Every time I get a note from somebody, it just makes my heart soar. By the way, if you're interested in coaching or team building or brainstorming or anything I can support you with, please shoot me a note via my website at abelintermedia.com, and be sure to download my free ebook, 12 Tips for Success on Camera. And as always, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already.